Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now I shall round up this session with an additional explanation on the places and the manners of articulation of the letters Alif, Hamza, Ba, Ta, Tha, and Jim. But before I continue, I shall explain that these 5 Arabic alphabets and the other 23 are consonants, and are produced by striking one organ of speech production with the other. 3 of them, the Alif, Waw, and Ya, are also used as long vowels. But for words to be formed from these consonants, short vowels are added to them as signs. So when the vowel sign Fatha is added to the first 5 letters, they are pronounced as A, Ba, Ta, Tha, and Ja. And when the sign changes to Kesra, the sounds also change to E, B, T, Thi, and G. But when the sign is the Dhamma, they are pronounced as U, Bu, Tu, Thu, and Ju respectively. Therefore, the only sign that brings out a consonant sound without other sound after it is the sukun. And this is the moment the two speech organs collide and obstruct the airflow in the vocal tract, as I previously explained. So the vowel sound follows the consonant after the speech organs have separated. But the sukun is not used at the beginning of an Arabic word. Therefore, the letter S of the 12th letter of the Arabic alphabet, Sin, for example, appears in a composition like this and pronounced as bis. Then in another example, the letter B of Haruful Ba carrying a sukun is preceded by the Hamza with Kesro in Iberotun, needle. Note that when the Hamza takes any of the short vowels, it is pronounced like the vowel without any consonant sound. And for this reason, the letter Hamza is described as a half letter. As for the letter Alif on its own, it does not represent a single consistent sound. So it functions as a long vowel or a carrier for Hamza when a word starts with a short vowel, as you have it in those examples I cited for you in the first lecture. The letter Hamza, in contrast to Alif, do produce a sound known as the glottal stop. Glottal stop means that the vocal cords come together and close the glottis, which is the opening between them, and the airflow is completely blocked. This pronunciation characteristics of Hamza is actually seen when the letter takes a sukun at the middle of a word. For example, in the Arabic word for well, Hamza takes a sukun and it sounds as eh, and so the word is pronounced as behrun. Again, the word is behrun. So this is the Hamza with the sukun. But what happens when the Hamza takes any of the Fatha, the Kesra, or the Dhamma? Then the glottis, which is initially blocked, is released for airstream to pass through it, and you have A, I, or U. The letter Ba is bilabial because it is produced from the contact between the two leaves. The manner that this contact is made is called a stop, as the airstream is initially completely stopped and later released in a sudden manner. Ba is a voiced sound, and this means that it is produced when these vocal cords come together and they vibrate as the air passes through them in this state. You can feel this vibration physically when you place a fingertip on this part of the throat during the production of any of the voiced sounds. So Ba is bilabial, a stop, and a voiced sound. But note that the wet parts of the lips are used in pronouncing Ba. And for this reason, it is called Harful Bahri. That is an endolabial letter. Now practice saying this. Ab, Ib, Ub, and with Domatan, Abun. The third Arabic alphabet, Ta, is pronounced as the T in Tab, but with a slight difference. This difference lies in the fact that while T is alveolar, that is pronounced by placing the tip of the tongue on the alveolar ridge, the alphabet Ta is dental alveolar. And this means that it is produced by striking the two upper front teeth and the gum with the tip of the tongue. It is a voiceless sound. That is, it is produced with the vocal cords apart. So air moves freely through the glottis when it is produced. It is a stop consonant like va. Now practice producing it with this word. Hatta, hatta, hatta. Now tha. The letter tha is produced by placing the tongue in between the upper and the lower front teeth. It is therefore called an interdental sound. The behavior of the tongue and the teeth during the production of tha is said to be fricative. Fricative because the airstream is almost completely blocked, and air is pushed out through a narrow opening. And you remember that I explained that tha is pronounced as the th in think. So as you try to pronounce ath, if, uth, and also ithnan, you notice the narrow escaping of the air through the teeth. So tha is interdental, fricative, and voiceless. And finally, jim. It is produced by placing the middle of the tongue at the very front of the palate. And because of the closeness of this area to the alveolar ridge, the sound ja produced is called alveopalatal. As regards its manner of articulation, it is affricative. That is, the airstream from the lungs is briefly stopped and later released with a lot of friction. The letter jim with fatha, pronounced as ja, is a voiced sound. Now you can say ad, id, ud, hajjun. So this is a wrap-up of the first session, in which I've added the explanation of the places and the manners of articulation of the letter Alif Amsa, the consonants Ba, Ta, Tha, and Jim. See you in the next section, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.